Good evening, I'm Michael, and you're watching Kini News, the show that brings you today's biggest stories. In today's episode, we see how two competing factions in Bersatu are fighting for control over the party, but with the tit-for-tat sacking from both sides, who's actually in charge? Today, both sides made their cases. Dr. Mahathir Mohamad made a shocking appearance at the Bersatu headquarters in Petaling Jaya this evening, where Hamzah Zainuddin was scheduled to hold a press conference at 4 p.m. However, after Mahathir's arrival, Hamzah's press conference was postponed by an hour and a half. Hamzah is the Secretary General of the faction aligned to Bersatu President Muhyiddin Yassin, which is at loggerheads with Mahathir's loyalists. In a Facebook posting, Mahathir, who is the disputed Bersatu chairperson, said, quote, "They said they want to sack me. I am waiting in my office."
He's a very powerful person. Very powerful, more powerful than the chairman. So they boleh sack siapa saja.
The video showed the 95-year-old politician walking into the Bersatu chairperson's office with an entourage and sitting at his desk. Speaking at a press conference later, Dr. Mahathir, flanked by several leaders who are aligned to him, said that the party wants to sack its president, Muhyiddin Yassin, but they will only do it through the proper channel.
So, you have said before that Tan Sri Muhyiddin took Bersatu out of Pakatan Harapan without the MPT's approval. So, would you consider this as leaving the party? Will you sack him instead?
Yeah, we will have to sack him. But when we want to sack him, we'll have a proper sitting of the Majlis Kepimpinan Tertinggi.
Yesterday, Mahathir and four others were told by the Muhyiddin faction that their Bersatu memberships were nullified for sitting in the opposition bench in Parliament. The five, including Mahathir's son, have disputed this. After Mahathir's Bersatu faction finished their press conference, we got to hear from Muhyiddin's faction in a press conference led by Hamzah Zainuddin. Bersatu Secretary General Hamzah Zainuddin reiterated that Dr. Mahathir Mohamad and four others had their Bersatu memberships nullified automatically for violating the party constitution for sitting on the opposition bench during the Dewan Rakyat sitting on May 18th. During the press conference this evening, he stressed that the five were not sacked but had their memberships nullified. Hamzah also disputed Marzuki Yahya's position in the party, saying Party President Muhyiddin Yassin had appointed him to replace Marzuki on March 26th. He said this means all statements issued by Marzuki as Secretary General are invalid and misleading. Last night, Marzuki issued a statement in the capacity of Bersatu Secretary General to remove Organising Secretary Muhammad Suhaimi Yahya from his post, after Suhaimi had sent termination letters to Dr. Mahathir and four others. Malaysia has once again reported a triple-digit increase of new COVID-19 cases. Malaysia started this week with triple-digit COVID-19 daily increases before dropping to low two-digit numbers, and today it's back to three digits with 103 new COVID-19 cases. Of the 103 new cases, 7 are imported cases, and from the total number of local transmissions, 84 cases involve non-Malaysians. This means only 12 cases involve Malaysians who caught the virus locally. Health Ministry Director General Dr. Norisham Abdullah said this includes a new cluster involving a cleaning services company. He said the cleaning services cluster was detected by a private clinic when the patients were sent by their employer for testing. Of the 150 workers tested, 126 got negative results. For those who tested positive, 20 lived in a hostel in Kuala Langat and are now being treated at the Sungai Buloh Hospital.
Perhaps Malaysians are practicing, in terms of the social distancing, in terms of all the SOP. But the question is, are the foreign workers practicing the SOP or not? So I think we need to educate the foreign workers to practice the SOP as well and make sure that social distancing, hand washing, wearing a mask and avoid a confined and crowded space. This is important. So as long as in this country, we need to look into both sectors because health involves everyone, whether you are a citizen or non-citizen.
If you received a message recently saying that the Conditional Movement Control Order is about to be extended, it's not true. Senior Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob refuted a viral message stating that the government has decided to extend the Conditional Movement Control Order after June 9th. In his daily press briefing on the COVID-19 situation, he said it's fake news and urged the people not to believe it. The minister urged the public to look for verified information on the SOPs from the National Security Council website, where clear guidelines are issued by the government. He was responding to a question from a reporter on whether interstate travel will be allowed after June 9th, which is when the conditional MCO is scheduled to end. Ismail Sabri said the government will decide on whether there will be an extension of the conditional MCO later, along with all related SOPs, including on interstate travel. Meanwhile, on a separate issue, Ismail Sabri assured that authorities will not detain migrant workers whose employers are holding their valid immigration documents. He explained that those who are arrested are those who really do not have any documents. He was responding to a reporter's question on whether employers are allowed to hold their foreign workers' immigration documents, and if not, whether the government will take action against these employers. So while Bersatu decides who's still in and out of the party, Anwar is hoping to steer PKR's conversation to something that could benefit Malaysians. Have Harapan, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad and Warisan secured 129 MPs on their side to reclaim Putrajaya from Perikatan Nasional? According to PKR President Anwar Ibrahim, it's still work in progress and nothing has been finalised.
Bukan soal pengakuan 129 ahli parlimen 130. Ini bagi kita tidak kita bincang kerana hal-hal ini masih dalam proses, ya. Belum muktamad. Kita sedang bincang dengan baik. Yang penting dalam perbincangan itu bukan soal nombor, bukan soal kuasa, ya. Kita dah banyak kali dah berkuasa. Pergi balik, jahanam juga rakyat, kepentingan rakyat. Jadi yang penting ialah mengikat kita dengan agenda ke arah kebaikan.
Anwar said discussions during the party's meeting with MPs yesterday focused on an agenda to improve the country's economy, institutions and society. This comes following speculation that Pakatan Harapan has the numbers to challenge the legitimacy of the Perikatan Nasional government, which came into power following a political coup. However, Senior Minister Azmin Ali, who played a key role in the collapse of the previous government, claimed to be in the dark that Dr. Mahathir, Harapan and Warisan have 129 MPs on their side. Coming up next, Trump is looking to come down hard on social media companies. Social media companies in the US may no longer enjoy as much legal protection as they used to. US President Donald Trump said he will introduce legislation that may scrap or weaken a law that has protected internet companies, including Twitter and Facebook, in an extraordinary attempt to regulate social media platforms where he has been criticized.
Currently, social media giants like Twitter receive an unprecedented liability shield based on the theory that they're a neutral platform, which they are not an editor with a viewpoint. My executive order calls for new regulations under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act to make it that social media companies that engage in censoring or any political conduct will not be able to keep their liability shield. That's a big deal.
The proposed legislation is part of an executive order Trump signed on Thursday afternoon. Trump had attacked Twitter for tagging his tweets about unsubstantiated claims of fraud about mail-in voting, with a warning prompting readers to fact-check the post.
Mr. President, given your concern with Twitter, have you given any consideration to deleting your account, to just walking away from this platform you've been so critical of?
Well, you know, if you weren't fake, I would not even think about it. I would do that in a heartbeat.
I'm real,
but
sir.
The news is fake. If we had a fair press in this country, I would do that in a heartbeat. There's nothing I'd rather do than get rid of my whole Twitter account, but I'm able to get to, I guess, 186 million people when you add up all the different accounts and add Facebook and Instagram. It's a lot of people, and that's more than the media companies have, frankly, by a lot.
Trump wants to remove or change a provision of law known as Section 230 that shields social media companies from liability for content posted by their users. Trump said U.S. Attorney General William Barr will begin drafting legislation immediately to regulate social media companies. Twitter did not comment on the executive order. A Google spokeswoman said undermining Section 230 in this way would hurt America's economy and its global leadership on internet freedom. A Facebook spokesman said repealing or limiting the provision will restrict more speech online and encourage platforms to censor anything that might offend anyone. Trump's remarks and the order, as written, attempts to circumvent Congress and the courts in directing changes to long-established interpretations of Section 230. It represents his latest attempt to use the tools of his presidency to force private companies to change policies that he believes are not favorable to him. Protesters enraged by the death of an unarmed black man this week used shopping carts to smash a police vehicle in Minneapolis. Peaceful rallies gave way to a third night of arson, looting and vandalism in Minneapolis on Thursday as protesters vented their rage over the death of a black man seen on video gasping for breath while a white police officer knelt on his neck.
What we've seen over the last 2 days and the emotion-ridden conflict over last night is the result of so much built-up anger and sadness. Anger and sadness that has been ingrained in our black community, not just because of 5 minutes of horror, but 400 years.
The latest spasm of unrest in Minnesota's largest city went largely unchecked despite Governor Tim Walz ordering the National Guard activated to help restore order following the first 2 days of disturbances sparked by Monday night's fatal arrest of 46-year-old George Floyd. In contrast with Wednesday night, when the rock-throwing demonstrators clashed repeatedly with police in riot gear, law enforcement kept a low profile around the epicenter of the unrest outside the city's 3rd Precinct police station. Protesters massing outside the building briefly retreated under volleys of police tear gas and rubber bullets, only to reassemble and eventually attack the building head-on, setting fire to the structure as police seemed to withdraw. Protesters were later observed on the roof. A car and at least 2 other buildings in the vicinity were also set ablaze, and looters returned for a second night to a nearby Target discount store left boarded up and vacant from the previous night to make off with whatever remained inside. A fire official says 16 buildings were torched on Wednesday night. There was no immediate sign of National Guard troops at the police station. Local, state and federal law enforcement officials sought earlier in the day to ease racial tension sparked by Floyd's death by vowing to achieve justice.
Be clear. The Department of Justice has made the investigation in this case a top priority. We have assigned highest of the high in my office to investigate and look at the case. And to be clear, President Trump, as well as Attorney General William Barr, are directly and actively monitoring the investigation in this case.
4 city police officers involved in the incident, including the one shown pressing his knee into Floyd's neck as he laid on the ground, moaning, "Please, I can't breathe," were fired from their jobs the next day. And that is all for me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. I'll be back next week with more. Same time, same place. I'm Bersatu Michael. Thank you for watching.